Welcome to the Education in Isolation podcast with me, Angela Connell, where we will explore the challenges of businesses moving from a face-to-face training mode to an online training environment. Many businesses have been caught off guard by the COVID-19 pandemic, but the situation is proving to be a catalyst for new possibilities and opportunities for the training industry. Let me and my guests help you make the most of these opportunities and to navigate the transition so that you and your organisation come out stronger and more resilient than when you went in. Education is the answer and you are the leader. Hi, and welcome to the Education in Isolation podcast. This week we're talking to Carl Taylor, who's from Automation Agency. Automation Agency we use personally within our business, and we've found it great for doing those tasks that are repetitive and enables us to then focus on the real business. So Carl, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you and what do you do?
Thanks, Angela. Who am I? Well, I like kind of think of myself as the freedom guy. Like I just look at everything I can and go, how do I never have to do that again? How do I work smarter rather than harder? And then ultimately, how do I help other people do the same and look at the world in the same way? On a more practical sense, I guess the way I do that, I've got a company called Automation Agency. That's kind of my primary company. I have a few other businesses. I've written books and various courses online, but the core of my offering is Automation Agency, and we're a done-for-you implementation service where effectively, you're trying to do online marketing and automate parts of your marketing and some of your other operations. You don't either have the time or the tech skills to do it. You can engage our team for a flat monthly rate, and then you send us jobs and we'll set it up. We'll do the button pushing and the clicking. You just have to have the idea of what you're trying to do. So that's kind of the bulk of who I am today and what I do. But it's been a long journey to get here. I am currently 34 years old, I think. And my first business, I started that when I was 15.
Wow.
So effectively almost 2 decades now in business for myself. And I've always been a very techie person. I taught myself to program at the age of 10. So I've always had a very techie mindset, which I think is why I'm always like, how do I never do that again? Because in coding, you learn to be smart by going, instead of writing the same function over and over again in code, you learn to kind of write one function and then you can just call it whenever you need it throughout your code. And so I think at a young age that wired my brain to think in that aspect of how do I just automate things. And then as I've grown through my business journey, I started very techie with the automation stuff. And then my definition of what is automation has shifted over the years. I now have a team of over 40 people. And so now when I think of automation, it's just me not doing it, meaning automation includes people automation, human automation, other people doing the job or doing the task or parts of it. So it's a mix of tech and team when I think of automation. I'm not sure where else to go. There's so much broad depth in my journey of the last 19 years. So
Yeah. So it came about because you identified, well, you don't want to do those tasks again. And then how was it that you went from, okay, I'm getting someone to do it for me, and now, oh, hold on, there's possibly a business in this. How'd that transition happen?
Yeah. So in 2011, I'd had an IT company that I'd ran for 8 years. I sold that in 2011. And that's when I decided that I was going to get into like the coaching world and teaching world. I'd had a lot of mentors over the years that had had a huge influence on my life. I'd written my first book in 2010. And so now there was a bit of ego in me at that stage as well. And so I wanted to be this big, important business guy. So I started going out there and coaching and teaching. And it took me a while. I tried a lot of different things. And I'm sure some of your listeners can relate to this, finding your niche, finding your thing that you connect with. And I kind of went through a lot of different iterations till eventually I landed on Business Builds Academy, teaching people how to buy, build, and sell businesses. And that was a really good business. I was very passionate about what I was teaching, and we had some great client success stories. But I was in a community with a whole bunch of other coaches. And what I found is that all these people around me were not coming to me asking about buying their competitor or selling their business, because most coaches were more practitioners. They love what they do. They're not looking to build a business that they can sell. Some are, but a lot of them aren't. And so what I found is that a lot of people around me were asking, how are you like automating all your emails to get people to your webinars? How are you getting people to your events? What are you doing with your text messages and all the techie stuff that I was doing to fill my own events and do my marketing? And that was at that point that, the coaching business can be a tough business. And especially if you're really struggling to get your message to market match, which I was. I loved my content, but the challenge was I was bringing a lot of people in who either had very little money. It was kind of a bit too biz-oppy for my liking. They were wanting to buy a business so they could just sit on the beach without realizing that if you buy a business for $1, which was a seminar I was running, you needed to have some money behind you to fix the business. There's a reason you were buying it for $1. So I was getting a lot of people.
A lot of work.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't have the money. And then the other types of people would be, I'm already in business. I don't see the point of acquiring a competitor. They weren't yet at that stage to see the value of acquiring a competitor. So things started to get a little tight in that business. And that was when I was just like, hold on, everyone around me is asking me for tech stuff. Why don't I just quit coaching? Because I was getting frustrated at people not always implementing what you tell them to do. And I was like, I could just do this for people. And I know I need this. And it's like, and then I could just focus on building and selling businesses myself. And I just need my own team of tech people because I could buy and sell online businesses. And that was the original inspiration for Automation Agency was I'm going to build a team of people that I can use myself, and I'll offer it out to other people as well, which will help pay for the team that I need to do my operations. That was the original inception of idea. And there were a lot of people around me. I was a mentor in another coaching program. And I would sit down with these guys pretty well every few months, and they would be talking about how they'd hired a virtual assistant from the Philippines, or they'd gone on Upwork or Fiverr or something, and they would just had horrible messes of their tech. It was just absolute messes, and they were struggling. And I was like, you know what? I could do something better. And so when I originally started Automation Agency, it was a full service, done for you consulting agency. You got a lot of my time. But the problem was that a lot of people couldn't afford that, which is why they were driving to find a virtual assistant, because they didn't have the $10,000 or $15,000 to drop on a project with us. And so we ended up flipping the model into what now is what Automation Agency is. It's a flat monthly concierge service where you get a team of graphic designers, team of web developers, automation people that you don't have to train, you don't have to manage. You just need to come up with the ideas and tell us what to do. And because hiring staff, figuring out how to manage those people, constantly training them, it's not only expensive in time, but can be very costly in money as well, depending on where you're trying to hire from. So that's really the core problem that we end up solving. And it was to solve a problem for me, what I needed to grow. And then just before we hit record on this episode, I was saying to you, what's shifted over the last 6 years when we started the business is, my needs now with a bigger team and being where I'm up to, my needs from a marketing team has changed. So now the challenge for me in Automation Agency is going, we keep Automation Agency as it is for the clients who are kind of where I was 6 years ago. And I'm also now going, okay, how do we build a solution that matches where people are at, where I'm at? Because there's a different stage. And we've seen that over the years
Very
with
much
cancellations in our services, that people get to a certain point where they've kind of outgrow what we do. And we're looking at how we can try and bridge that gap and have maybe a second tier that's for people who kind of.
So that most you go
outgrow.
into content strategies and that sort of side of it, building the whole marketing campaigns. Would it be?
Yeah, we're looking at the moment. We've just rolled out a new thing, which you may have noticed. This month, we're trialing a new operation where we're providing an implementation project every month. Mm-hmm. So basically, this month we're doing a video masterclass funnel, basically teaching you what this funnel is, how to build it, and then giving you easy click buttons to send it into the team to get the pages built, the emails built. We're giving you email templates that are kind of already written that you can just tweak and change to your business. So that's something that we rolled out in May as part of our approach to try and overcome the fear of COVID and what that was going to have on our business. In May, basically, I knew that a lot of people were stressing. I knew a lot of our clients had lost all their income overnight. And so I was like, okay, hold on. This is the time that they're all going to try and cancel. And it's the time that they shouldn't be canceling, because we're an unlimited marketing service. Like, you don't pay us by the hour. It doesn't matter how much or how little you're using us. The price is the same. And it's like, it breaks my heart to think that people are going to cancel us when now is the time they should actually lean on us. You need to pivot and change your business. Now's the time to use us more, not less. So I jumped in and created this kind of step-by-step guide on how to build a webinar to appointment funnel, because I was like, okay, people are going from offline to online. What is the one funnel I could teach them that I think any business could utilize? Any business can sell over the phone. Like, any business can. Whether you think you're a good person on the phone or not, anyone can ultimately get a conversation on the phone, and that can lead to a client in some way, shape, or form. So how do we get that online? Well, doing an ad straight to a phone appointment, it can work if you're messaging strong and you're targeting well. But what you can do is go, hey, I'm running this webinar, this educational event, come to that, and then lead you to the phone call. But the cool thing is, if you're sending them to a phone call, they just have to register for the webinar. They don't even have to show up to the webinar. You can still get them on the phone call. Like, the webinar doesn't really matter that much. It's great for those that will do it, but often the people who have money don't have time. So the people with money aren't going to sit on your 1 hour or 1 hour and a half webinar, but they show interest. They'll register because maybe they want the replay or something, or they think they do. And then when you show them, hey, you can actually just get on a phone call with us, at least you're getting more warm leads. So that was like the one funnel. And I just went through and just, again, same thing. I wrote email templates for everyone. I gave you guides. And that was where the idea was born, was like, hold on, what if we did this every month? What if every month we had a different implementation guide funnel for our clients, just to help you implement? Because that's always one of the biggest challenges. Clients will sign up with our service with a few ideas. And then after a few months, maybe they start to go, well, I've done that. I don't know what else to do. And so that's always been a challenge over the years for us. You know, one of our biggest challenges has always been churn, people kind of getting to a point where they either outgrew us because they needed something we didn't provide, or they ran out of ideas because they didn't have that strategic education on mind. And so that's some of the areas we've been focusing on ourselves to deliver more value.
Yeah, and I suppose it really depends on where the business owner is and what they're doing. Are they doing coaching as well? We're not all marketing experts. We might be good at selling, have the gift of the gab, but when it comes to actually building a strategy on marketing, that I think that is a really good identification of the challenges that are happening, particularly with COVID-19 right now. And so you identified the challenges of your clients, which is awesome. I think that they're the businesses that are going to survive through all of this, are the ones who go, right, okay, I can see a problem that I need to solve, what our clients need to solve. What was your biggest challenge within your business?
Our biggest challenge hasn't really changed in probably the last 2 years. Our biggest challenge with COVID was, I guess, managing that client freak out of, I'm trying to cut costs. And so they're looking at automation agency as a cost. And I think that's any service provider, especially if you're a subscription service like we are, that's always something you're managing, is how do you ensure that they see you as an investment rather than a cost? And because I see that we are an investment for every client we have, but that, just because I see it that way, doesn't necessarily mean they do. So that was when COVID really kind of ramped up. I was in Texas at the time. And so I had to very quickly jump on a plane, come back to Australia. Wasn't the mandatory lock-ins, but I had a 14-day self-isolation at home. And while I was in that 14-day isolation, there was not much else to do except play with my virtual reality and think about business things. And so that was when I came up with the implementation guide, but also I ran a webinar just called Protect, Pivot, Profit. And I've since got what I taught, the Protect, Pivot, Profit, as a podcast that people can find if they want to. But I effectively took people through, here's the things you need to protect. Here are the things you need to do to pivot, and then here's how you profit. And the pivot stuff kind of talked about the webinar to appointment funnel. But the protection part was about going through what you're spending money on and categorizing those costs. What are the things that are essentials that you need to keep your business alive? What are the things that are investments that are actually providing you're actually providing a return, and then what are the things that are just kind of luxuries? They're nice to have, you probably don't need them. And there was a few parts on me in doing that. One, I genuinely wanted to serve the broader audience. It wasn't just automation agency clients on that training I did. But I was also using it as an opportunity to help any of my existing clients. If they were thinking automation agency was a cost, that was a luxury, I wanted to help reframe that and go, no. Like you've got unlimited access. And a time like any recession or any kind of time that people start freaking out is the one time you shouldn't cut back on marketing. Yet it's the default that we always do. Every business owner, even me, like the first thought is, what costs am I going to cut? But it's as soon as you do that, you're literally shrinking. Like if you're doing your marketing right, every dollar you spend in your advertising, your marketing, whatever, should be bringing you $2 or $3 or $4 or $10 or $100 back in return. And if it's not, then it doesn't mean you should stop marketing. It just means you need to start looking at how you're spending your marketing, what needs to tweak, what needs to change. So that was been my biggest challenge throughout all of this has always been churn. And so some of that links to managing client expectation and the way they view us as a service. The other side has been on us and making sure that as we grow, that our quality, our consistency can stay the same, our speeds. Like that's always the biggest challenge is as we grow, being a service, we're not like a software tool that, we add another 100 clients. It's no big deal. It's like we add 100 clients. Well, we have to hire and train more team members. And then those team members need to be managed. And if they're not quite following the processes, there are people, which can always be challenging. So, and then managing that, because knowing that we will at times let a client down, like that sucks as any business owner to know. And if you're one of those people listening who's like, that's why I don't want a team because I want to control everything. I get it. But like, here's one of the things I think about is average efforts multiplied. This is my little quote. Average efforts multiplied will always beat a single perfect performance. My best team member, my best hero, we call our guys who do the work heroes. My best hero, I personally trained. She's now our web automation team leader. She's incredible. Her skills, what she knows about automation is amazing. The way she thinks is amazing. But even still, she probably takes maybe 2 to 3 times as long as I would to do something. She won't always think and get to a solution the way I will. It'll take her longer. She might make mistakes that I wouldn't make. Even she's my best team member, and she knows this. But even that is maybe she's at best probably a 70 to 80% of what I could do. But here's the thing: I've got a team of 40 people who are doing things that are 50 to 60 to 80% of what I can do, which means in an hour there's far more work being done than if the business had stayed just me. And that single perfect performance, I mean, from a client point of view, like it really is frustrating if you see one of your team members make a mistake that you wouldn't. But I always then point the finger back and go, okay, so what have I missed? What training did I miss to give them? What resource checklist have we missed to give them? Are they just overworked and overwhelmed? Have we not checked in that they're mentally okay? Because maybe they know what to do, but their headspace is just not in a good spot right now. And it's all these factors that can come into play when you start to build a team. So that's also one of my biggest challenges as I've grown over the years. And COVID or no COVID, it's always a challenge for our business.
And it is a challenge for a lot of businesses, and they do see hiring a team as difficult and frustrating, and particularly if they've run a business before, they had team members and then they've decided to start another business and they think that they can do it on their own. And I know within the training industry, you definitely cannot. I've got clients who, when they start with us, they're still in the training room. So they're delivering the training as well as trying to run a business. And the first thing I do is say, you've got to get out of the training room. You can go in as a guest appearance, but you can't be running the whole show, because your most important role within the organization is to lead the business and to identify opportunities and grow that way. And so I know everyone's had challenges with team, but and that you can't clone yourself. That's not not what's going to happen. What you need to do is hire your weaknesses and focus on what are your weaknesses and the areas that you don't really want to do. So that you can put more value, and it's putting value on your own time and where you want to be within the business as well. So I totally agree with all of that. So you've talked about a few hurdles that you needed to overcome, and in particular your clients and what they needed to overcome. And when you came up with, okay, we've got to do these webinars, we've got the risk of losing some of our clients. What was the strategy? What did you put in place when you identified that with COVID-19 and your clients suffering?
Great. Yeah, great question. So there's one thing that I've noticed a lot of people doing during COVID, which I personally find concerning from a business structure point of view, not from adding value to clients. There's no problem with that. But I've seen a lot of people in the coaching world, a lot of our clients are coaches, but also outside of it too, like the stacking value, just going, clients are going to leave. Let's just stack as much value as we can. Let's start offering one-on-one calls. We didn't used to do one-on-one calls. Let's start doing this. And so what happens is they start to add all these extra touch points, which is amazing and adds so much love to the client. I love it. The challenges I see that so many of them don't do is they didn't take time to think through how they're going to wind these extra things back in the future. So you've built this great business that was, quite leveraged. It didn't require too much of your one-on-one time. Maybe you weren't doing one-on-one check-ins with clients anymore, or maybe you were. And then all of a sudden, because of fear that, we don't want these clients to leave, let's do as much as we can. And you roll out all this extra value without putting any kind of end date. You don't say, hey, this is a limited time thing. And you start to create the expectation in the client that this is something that's going to be ongoing. So that was something that was very mindful for me as I was thinking through, okay, what are we going to do? So when I ran the Protect, Pivot, Profit webinar, I made sure it was very clear that this implementation guide for the webinar to appointment funnel was a one-time thing. Like, this was a special COVID stimulus package. Here's the guide, here's the emails, everything you want. And when I saw how impactful that seemed to be for the clients, when I saw that in that particular month when I ran that webinar, it was our lowest churn we'd ever had in over 2 years. It was the lowest churn that month. It spiked a little bit in April. But yeah, that was our lowest churn ever. And so I looked at that data and went, okay, that's really interesting. So I started to go, okay, if we were to do this ongoing, how might I roll this out? How am I going to do this in a way that's sustainable? How am I going to make sure that I'm not committing Carl to something that he's going to regret later?
Dragging you back into the doing stuff, yeah.
And that's happened a little bit over the last few months. That we had an issue in one of our products. We have a thing called a Kickstart kit where we build effectively a website for someone. And we had some quality challenges before COVID happened. And so when COVID was happening, we'd stopped selling these sites. And then we relaunched them during the middle of COVID because we could see people needed the website services again. And so I put myself back in that process. I said, okay, well, I'm going to come in and manage this process because I wanted to really just ensure we got the quality back up where I wanted it to be. And then even this week, I was kind of having the conversation internally going, okay, I've made myself a bottleneck again. What are we doing to get me out of this bottleneck? Because right now, you're making me have a one-on-one call with everyone before this project goes ahead. My availability is what's slowing down our ability to sell. How are we going to remove me out of this? Who do I need to train? What are we changing? Can I turn this into a video? That's how my mind starts to think. It's like, how do I take what I'm doing and either give it to someone else, or can I make me be in a video, or what's going to happen? Yeah. And so that's the key thing that for my hurdles of what I thought about was, how do I ensure that what I'm doing, and I'm not perfect. The Kickstart one is a perfect example of me not thinking that through well enough. But when it came to implementation guides, I was very clear on going, okay, we're going to do just one, see how it goes. Okay, it seems to go really well. I've got some ideas for some others. Let's start working on them in the back end. Now let's go to my client Facebook group and say, hey, I'm thinking of launching some other ones. What would be useful? Get some votes. We saw that the biggest votes was for the video to masterclass funnel. So what are we launching with this month? Masterclass funnel. And we've done that. Again, we haven't committed that we're going to do one again next month. Like, that's my hope. Assuming this goes really well, I'd love to turn this into a monthly thing that we do with the long-term play that while Carl will be the one who teaches them initially, either we'll then have a library of videos where Carl taught them, or we'll bring on another strategist who can come in and just walk people through these different funnels every month. So I've thought about it from a long-term play of, if I'm going to introduce something, one, is it sustainable long term? If I don't think it is, how do I ensure I introduce it as a limited offer initially? I don't commit to something that I'm going to 12 months from now be going, oh my God, what have I done?
And I can't get out now because I promised this. Yeah.
Totally. And we
Yeah.
all do it. We all, especially in the service-based business, we all do it. And it's that's the thing. I noticed it. I looked around at everyone at COVID. They're all adding all this great love, and I was looking at it, going like,
It's
"Yeah,
not
you're gonna
sustainable.
get yourself into a problem where you're exhausted from all these one-on-one calls, and you're gonna have to manage how you communicate to clients that this is going away."
Mm. Yeah, and we've identified also there's a lot of people in the very similar boat to you where they've gone, okay, I need to do an online course. Because the big thing is you're teaching the same content over and over again, even with those one-on-one calls. So how can you do it in a group, or how can you replicate that? And that's where I think, like at the moment, particularly with our registered training organisations, they're delivering the same content over and over again. How can they partly automate that so that it could be that there's a component that they have delivered online, and then they have the face-to-face where they get to learn from the experience of the trainer. But I think the online component is going to be very, very important, and it's a great way to automate. Like a lot of our clients, we said to them, okay, now while you're recording, think about this content that you can use later as an ongoing basis that will support your training now. So you've got an online training portal yourself, is that correct?
We do for automation agency, not so much, but in my Business Builds Academy, I do have an online training portal.
And what's that training? What are you delivering?
So that's training's about buying and selling businesses. So it's, I've got a course there around how to buy a business, put in your offer. It's a course called 6 Weeks to Offer. So it's a step-by-step 6-week training. And at the end of it, then they've got all the tools and resources they need to be able to put an offer on buying a business.
And it would be great content that, it's really well put together into a course that can be used time and time again, which is something that we very much encourage within our industry. So
one of the things that I think about, like to think about that, like, so my courses for Business Builds Academy, there were 2 ways I created it. One, I delivered it as a live seminar, and I recorded the live seminar, and that was the first iteration. The online course was just literally the live seminar cut up into small segments and then some extra resources. Then a second iteration was, some of those segments from the live seminar are good. Let's now do like a PowerPoint presentation and a bit that maybe then connects to the live presentation. And so I then added, so the version 1 was just do how I would normally do it, live seminar. Now, obviously the challenge is you're doing activities in the room. It's hard sometimes to translate those to online activities. So that's where you start playing with going, okay, let's cut it here where the room went to an activity, and let's come up with a different activity, or do a more recorded specific to someone who's at home alone doing their own study. So that's a really easy way to do an online course, is just do it the way you'd normally do it, and then look at how do you tweak it to make it more digestible online. And I think anything you're doing, if it comes to sales, when it comes to automation, you mentioned this before, basically if I'm ever doing something that I think is going to be needed to be done again, either by me or someone else, I don't always make time for it. But when I have made the space, I will go, okay, let's hit record while I do this thing, or let's create a system around this so that even if I'm still the one doing it, at least next time there's something to remind me how to do it. Or if I don't want to do it, I can send this video to someone else and say, hey, here's what I need you to do. And they've got more context. And so same thing, like these calls, all the calls that I've been doing with clients these last little while on the Kickstarts, I've been recording each of them. We normally do that anyway, so the client has a copy, but I've been recording them because I want to then be able to give that to someone else in the team and say, watch through these 5, 6, 10 calls that I did, turn it into a new structure, and then let's do your own training, and ultimately you will take over doing these calls. So all the fact that I did those calls became the training material to give someone else to take over that role.
I know Loom has become my new best friend. And we're doing a lot of, we're doing a lot of internal recording for team members, but we're now doing recordings for our clients as well. So it makes it so much easier for them to just follow, instead of us having, because often they can't get it the first time and they always come back with another question, whereas a video they can rewind and play it again.
Pause, play, go back, totally.
Yeah. So it makes it so much easier, which I think is also what's really good about online courses as well, able to do that. So, out of all of this, when you think about the last 6 months, what would be your biggest achievement?
I mean, I guess I mean, I don't think of it as our biggest achievement. I mean, I guess people would. June ended up being our best month in probably at least 2 years. So that in itself is, the financial year of 2019, 2020, like was our best year ever in business. Um, so that's a pretty big achievement, I guess, that
It's
in the height of
huge.
all the COVID craziness, that was the thing. Like I had friends who were applying for JobKeeper and they were doing all sorts of things. And I'm on the phone to them going, well, I don't qualify for JobKeeper. I haven't seen a 30% drop. If anything, we're going up.
Mm,
So that's amazing. It's also it's also got challenges that's come with it. But absolutely, like, the fact that we were able to show up, and even with our churn, like churn has been a big problem for us. So churn, if you're not familiar with the subscription business, it's people canceling. That's what
mm,
churn is.
mm,
And it's always been a challenge for us, and it's a continual challenge. But the fact that even with that churn challenge in the height of a pandemic, we've still been growing more and more. People are committing and like we did a big promotion in June for upgrade to annual, lock in some savings, and that had a lot of people taking advantage of that. And we had a special promo for people who were sitting on the sidelines. We had an end of financial year sale. So June was a really kind of big opportunity for people, but it was and it turned into a really big opportunity for us. So yeah, I guess it is a big achievement. It just feels, I don't know, it just feels. To be honest, like from our business point of view, we've been a remote only business for over 6 years since we began. Like the COVID thing, apart from going, how do we add more value and protect our clients who are struggling? How do we help them pivot their business? From us day to day, not much has changed because we've been delivering online. We've been using Zoom for 6 years. Everyone worked from home. Like we day to day operations have not been disrupted for us. It's really just meant that the market is kind of catching up to where we've been.
Well, they
And
had to.
yeah,
Yeah. I know within the training industry, it was very much the same. I've been talking to our clients and saying you need to get online for years. And they just saw it as, oh, it's not something we want to do right now. It's not what our students will want. It's not what the industry wants. And then we're forced into it. And actually, they do want it. They do like it. They find it very flexible way of learning. So yeah, and sometimes things like this have to happen in order for us to see your business, see the way what you do in a different way. And I suppose, like where you're talking about how people are giving more value to their clients, I think on the flip side of that, they're the ones that will keep going, but they do need to look at the transition because it's those, you need to be able to make sure that your clients are sustainable, they're able to continue with you, they see you as a benefit, not a liability to their business. And how you can keep them going, particularly when you're doing business to business, makes it very difficult. And you don't know, like we've got clients who are in hospitality in the event industry. They couldn't even have their students go to work placement. Events not so hard to do online, but they couldn't do any work placement. A lot of it, we got quite a few clients who got commercial cookery, and they couldn't do any commercial cookery assessments and things like that. But it's just looking at it from a different way and coming up with different solutions.
And what I love about it though is that it's forced. When I look at the overall like global economy in general, it's forced businesses to move what was coming 10 years maybe. It's just sped it up because it's always been coming. It's been like, as I said, my business and many of my friends' businesses have already been like this for years. And we were just kind of more on the bleeding edge, and now everyone else is catching up. And that's cool because it means now, as you say, the people are forced to buy online. That even when restrictions fully go back, or if there ever is a kind of old normal, who
Normal,
knows,
yeah.
like people's behaviors will have changed. There'll be certain people that snap back. There'll be certain elastic band stretches that then just go back to how they were. But there will be other behaviors and traits that will just, like my
Big.
parents now buy groceries online they never had before, and now they'll probably continue that forever now because they see the benefit of it. And it's little things like that that has a whole huge effect on every business now, because it changes the behavior of consumers, which change the behavior of the workers who are at the companies that might be your clients. And so it changes behavior all along the chain. And I think that's really exciting because it means that if everyone else catches up to where many of us have been for years, it's like, what is the next 10 years going to look like now? Because it's going to shift again.
And so now are you looking at within your business, okay, all right, they're catching up with us now. They're understanding this technology. They're understanding the way you can work remotely and have these remote teams. Are you, we were talking about it before we got on the call, looking at where you're going into the future. What are the strategies you've put in place, and where do you see your business in 12 months' time, or not even your business, the market?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always like, my gift and also curse, I guess you could label it sometimes at times, is my strategic mind and the ability that I have to think into the future a lot. And so I'm always constantly thinking about how's things changing, what's going to change, what do I need to do. I love playing with tech gadgets. During my COVID lockdown of the 14-day thing, I was playing around with virtual reality, and I was really excited with what VR has to offer. And a few more good apps. I can imagine, forget going to seminar rooms. You could just do the whole thing in a virtual reality environment. It's getting that good. I think we're probably still a few years away, but.
Yeah, but it's also the market adjusting to it. Because I remember when, we'll get back to you, but I remember when Tony Robbins did his business mastery via virtual, it just didn't work. But I think now people they're more used to it now.
Yeah, I mean, the technology's still got a little bit to go. Like wearing it for too long, you can get a bit like headachy. I got a friend who in his coaching business, he ran his mastermind over Zoom, but then he'd sent everyone the Oculus headsets, the VR headsets, because the Oculus, what have I got? The Oculus something or other. Anyway, it's like $600. They're really affordable now, and amazing. Don't need to be plugged into a computer. Really good quality. And he sent that to all his clients, and they just did a few activities inside this virtual world. He said he couldn't have run the whole thing in the virtual world. It was too much like headachy, and there's a novelty factor of new people playing with tech they'd never played with. But it really kind of showed the power of what I think is going to come there. And I think that's now that more companies are kind of getting on that world, it's only going to mean that people are going to start exploring this, and developers will now put in the time to build out the Oculus platforms and look at how they solve problems, no longer on Zoom, but in the virtual world. So I think augmented reality, virtual reality, sometime in the next 10 years, there's going to be some really exciting things in the kind of the training, coaching space in particular. I think there'll be a lot that could change in how we do online courses, because that allows you to have a bit more interactivity with someone delivering a live class, a bit more like it is in a room, but without the room component of it.
I could see you could, for example, aged care. You could have scenarios where they're working within an aged care facility. Yes, they're not going to be able to do the manual handling and things like that, but they're going to be able to get the feel of walking around facility and interacting with other staff members and things like that. Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. I went to the International Space Station and I floated around on the International Space Station. I went for a spacewalk all in my VR. And it was just crazy how
sounds like you had a great lockdown.
The mind took it. Yeah. The only thing I'm realizing now, I'm like, oh, I wonder if there's a beach lockdown. I'm missing the beach. Maybe there's a beach world in virtual reality I can go to.
Have a solarium as well. So you can actually feel the heat.
Yeah, so I think that there's a lot of opportunity in the VR AR world, which I've been looking at that for years, but I think now we're getting to a cusp where it may start to be at a place that the market's willing to, because that's the thing that I've got a podcast called Future of Humanity that I used to do. And the biggest challenge whenever I would talk to futurists that it would frustrate me is they talk about the tech side of it. They're always going, here's what's going to happen. Here's what the next 20 years is going to look like. But they're coming at it from a very just looking at the logistics of technology and science, and they're never taking in the psychology of the market of going, well, yeah, we can technically do that. We can technically have driverless cars on the road today. The reason we don't, though, is we have drivered cars on the road, and the driverless cars don't handle drivered cars that are unpredictable quite all that well. If the entire roads were filled with driverless cars, it'd be ready to go today. But we've got market. We've got to get the people who are prepared to get behind the wheel of a driverless car. There's all these aspects that people don't think about. So I think when I look at the market, what we're going to see is a lot more people for the next little while who are hesitant, even as things open up to have in-person events. I think there's going to be a hesitancy for a while of people going, do I even want to show up? Is the risk still there?
Are they still going to offer a Zoom link?
Yeah, hygiene, all of that. So I think that what's going to happen is that people are going to be wanting a virtual version all the time. I think there will be a tipping point, though, where eventually everyone's gotten so immersed in the online that it'll become a novelty that you're offering an offline component.
Bit like receiving a letter in the mail now.
Totally. But I don't think we're there yet. I think that's still to come. But so I think we're going to see more and more people going online, to the point that, people like you and I who've been doing online for a while might start to be challenged, because now these big incumbents are coming in and doing online stuff, which could so we have to find new ways to innovate of how we're going to reach people and do things. But I think eventually then there'll be a tipping point where it's back to, hey, doing something offline and in person becomes this new trend, and people get on that. So
yeah, I find it interesting. I think the introverts are very happy with the fact that we can just stay at home, and the extroverts are like, get me out of here. I just want to hug someone. So, yeah, I think definitely with events, I think they will need to do a combined model where you still give people the opportunity to live stream in, but they're also, so the extroverts can get out and go to the live events. And I think, yeah, definitely with that is I'm doing the same thing, looking into the future. I'm well known in my team as the Angela Tornado, because I tend to come in and stir everything up and then walk away, and everyone's like, what happened?
That's the job of the CEO. That's the role of the business owner. The team are always going like, oh no, here they come again.
Yeah. Hold on. I had one team member explain it to strap yourself in and hold on tight. We're on the Angela rocket.
I like that.
Yeah. So I think we've definitely got a brighter future, and it is coming up with the innovative ways of how we can, particularly the biggest thing with online learning is the engagement, and how do we keep that engagement with the training, and then also that retention, particularly for registered training organisations, that retention of what they've learnt is the key of what we need to be able to get across. So I think with the new tech that's coming out and the opportunities that we're going to have is definitely the way. And I love my tech as well.
I think also, like, if you think about it, it going back to even with like delivering your online training, it's like, what are the components that never change and don't really need to be personalized? Like, that's perfect for just self-paced, watch this video. And then it's like, once you've done your self-pacing, what are the maybe team things that need to be done either through breakout rooms on Zoom or on some sort of a Zoom meeting? How do you then just put that component? Then maybe you need to do some assessments. Well, those assessments can either be do them at home and then submit them, or they can be done facilitated online on Zoom or with an online quiz. There's all these different ways. So it's like, I always think about like, what are the bits that just repeat over and over and over again? Perfect play for just a standalone video ready to go. And then where are you wanting the engagement components? And it's just so cool that, Zoom were leading the way for a long time, and now Microsoft and Google are freaking out. So, they've massively improved their Teams product, which now does pretty well everything Zoom did. Google's announced now that they're building breakout rooms and all these other features that Zoom's had. So it's going to be interesting over the next few years to see what platforms remain dominant, I guess, in the video conferencing space. But it's good that they're all looking at how do we increase engagement, because now instead of just small companies having this, now we've got big companies who are going, how do we keep our thousands of employees engaged? And so now you've got developers thinking about the problems. So we've got more attention on solving them, which I think is a good thing overall.
And yeah, watch this space. It's going to be, I think, pretty exciting. I'm excited about the next 12 months and what opportunities are going to come up and what will be out there. Okay, last question. So how do you keep motivated every day? Sounds like you're a very motivated person anyway. But what is it through the last 6 months that's kept you motivated?
What keeps me motivated? See, I don't necessarily feel like I do anything to keep me motivated. In the last 12 months in particular, I've really been leaning into learning to be present. I came across a really great book which dramatically changed my life called Loving What Is by Byron Katie. And her teachings alone, not just her teachings, but many things led to me writing a second book, which came out last month. And it's all about effectively like realizing that everything is a story. Everything we just talked about is a story. Every thought you have is a story. It doesn't mean it's true. And learning to then question that. So what motivates me these days is far more like, how do I contribute? How do I give? An earlier version of me, it was like, how do I be secure? It was very selfish. I can see that now. It was very focused on me. How am I doing? Whereas now it's like, how do I contribute? How do I create opportunities for other people? That motivates me. But really just, I have fun. I think that's the difference is like, my mind loves solving problems. And so I can get overwhelmed if there's too many problems to solve at once. And also if I attach to the story of time frames, a lot of stress can happen for me where it's like, I've got an idea, I've solved the problem in my mind and I want it implemented tomorrow.
And why isn't it working the way I want it to?
Yeah, it's like, but no, I've got a team size that I have to like, I can't just go, Carl has an idea, it's in place tomorrow. It can take months sometimes from Carl's idea to actually inception. And that's a new thing for me because I've always had small businesses with small teams in the past. So those things challenge me, but ultimately what motivates me is I feel that what I'm doing has an impact. And I'm happy to just be in the moment, that if things are going not the way I want, when I can let myself detach from all that story and just come back to where am I right now? What's the texture on the wall? What's the color of the floor? What can I hear? What can I smell? What can I taste? What's happening in this moment right now? Because that's all that matters. All of that can kind of stress can melt away. And then it just goes to, cool, what's fun? What am I going to do? And usually that's solving some sort of a problem, which helps the business and my clients.
Yeah, that's an awesome way to live life. And it would be fun as well. And for me, it's very much what keeps me motivated is very similar, but it's how can I serve better our community and help them to succeed and learn from me and learn from what I've learned from so many great people in my lifetime. And I love to share that knowledge as well. So that's really motivational for me, hearing that from you as well. It's been awesome having a chat to you today, Carl. Like I could talk tech for hours, but I love this automation. And we've got you coming up with a masterclass for our mailing list. So I'm looking forward to that as well. So is a lot of our team, actually. So we're looking forward to catching up again with you soon. Thank you. You've been listening to the Education in Isolation podcast with me, Angela Connell. Do you know someone else who could benefit from learning about opportunities and strategies to provide training online? Please take a moment to share this and other episodes via your podcast app, email, or social media channels. Each share helps us reach listeners just like you who can benefit from our content. The Education in Isolation podcast is proud to be part of the Experts on Air podcast network.